episode of Mental Health is Horrifying. I'm your horror Barbie host of darkness, Candis Green, psychotherapist and all-around spooky bitch, podcasting from my bat-filled cave in Toronto, Canada. What a time to be a horror fan, eh? We have been absolutely blessed this summer with a horror feast with the number of movies being released. Honestly, I am having a hard time keeping up. Horror movies have always reflected the cultural zeitgeist and our collective fears. So, I guess the silver lining for our off-the-charts existential dread is tons of amazing horror movies, right? Between Hokum, Passenger, Backroom, Scary Movie, Evil Dead Burn, Ice Cream Man, Insidious, and Obsession, I guess we really do be anxious in this year of our Lord, 2026. There's something about all sitting together in a dark, air-conditioned movie theater for 2 hours, filled with a bunch of other horror fans, that allows you to set aside your worries for a while and instead wonder what you would do if your partner duct taped your door shut and you couldn't get to work. Your life may feel pretty bad right now, but at least you don't have to eat your dead cat in a sandwich. A cat witch. It is no coincidence that we are being showered in horror right now, and that obsession has really struck a chord in a world where we are increasingly unsure how to be in relationship with each other, and where true intimacy feels like a horrifying threat. This episode contains spoilers, okay? You gotta see this, so go do that and then come back. Or listen to this first. I'm not trying to control you. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's check out Obsession and explore its portrayal of the fear of intimacy. Bear has romantic feelings for his friend Nikki, both of whom work at a music store with their friends Ian and Sarah. Unable to find the dignity to tell her to her human face how he truly feels about her, Bear visits an occult shop and purchases a one-wish willow, which is a novelty toy that claims to grant one wish per person when broken. Nikki directly asks Bear if he likes her, which he nervously denies. Ugh. So instead, he breaks the one-wish willow, wishing for Nikki to love him more than anyone in the world. Immediately after, Nikki starts acting strangely. She becomes obsessed with Bear and begins acting erratic and violent. Her behavior includes screaming loudly when Bear attempts to leave the bed, duct taping the front door shut so he can't go to work, making a weird shrine with his dead cat in it, and then making Bear a surprise dead cat sandwich. She lies about her father having cancer. She watches his every move. She watches him when he sleeps. She flips out when he attempts to go anywhere on his own. She accuses him of not loving her and basically acts completely out of character. The One-Wish Willow spell has turned her into a prisoner in this relationship. We see glimpses of the true Nikki attempting to break through the spell, where she screams in terror, harms herself, or begs Bear to kill her before snapping back to her imprisoned self. Bear calls the One-Wish Willow customer service line to see if he can alter his wish. The voice on the other end says the wish will only expire when Bear or Nikki dies, then puts a hysterically screaming Nikki on the line. Bear confides in his friend Sarah, but Nikki do be jealous as her imprisoned self, so she murders her by repeatedly slamming her face into the steering wheel. Bear continues to try to reverse the spell by acquiring another One-Wish Willow, which his friend Ian uses to ask for $1 billion, only to be shot moments later by Nikki. Unable to cope with the reality of the situation, Bear takes a bottle of oxycodone, When he was doing that, Nikki got a hold of a one-wish willow and made what we can only assume is a wish for Bear to love her more than anything in the whole world. Just as the wish kicks in and Bear becomes smitten with her, he dies from all those oxys. Heartbroken, Nikki prepares to shoot herself, but Bear's death causes the real Nikki to regain control before she can. Horrified by the carnage surrounding her, Nikki wails in horror. Writer-director Curry Barker is only 26, and he rose to internet fame alongside creative partner Cooper Tomlinson, who plays Bear's friend Ian in Obsession. As the duo behind the YouTube sketch comedy channel That's a Bad Idea, before transitioning into longer-form horror with the 62-minute micro-budget slasher Milk and Cereal. The found-footage-style fright flick, which Barker wrote, directed, and starred in, went hugely viral after the pair released it, attracting the attention of major Hollywood studios. When Obsession was acquired by Focus Features for a reported $14 million last year, nobody could have quite expected what a huge movie this would become. His slate of forthcoming projects not only includes Blumhouse horror comedy Anything But Ghosts, a collaboration with Tomlinson that stars Aaron Paul and Bryce Dallas Howard, but also A24's new reimagining of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which Barker says he plans to take in a very different direction than the last 6 or 7 movies we've seen in the franchise. There were a few horror references I could detect in Obsession, like when Nikki would emerge terrified from her imprisoned state like in Get Out. Of course, her creepy, hypnotized smile referenced the traumatic spell from Smile, and the absence of the real Nikki from her own life and body being replaced by something someone thought would be more palatable is right out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Designing a woman to suit your exact specifications, to cater to your every whim and desire, to be devoted wholly to you, to possess her completely, reminded me of Companion, which I did an episode on. It's real topical now that people are literally talking to AI bots. And I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, just don't do it, guys. You'd be so much better off talking to a real person, a cat, a dog, a bunny, or a tree. Obsession is a really great example of people having the power to change the course of what corporate interests are attempting to tell us is inevitable. We have been told that no one wants to go to the movies anymore, and that everyone just wants to watch new releases from the comfort of their own home. But Obsession, and I would argue horror fans in general, are proving that wrong. Obsession has been making box office records and is projected to end its theatrical run at around $300 million, which is 330 times its budget, surpassing Paranormal Activity and The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project, people! This has been possible thanks to Blumhouse's decision not to cut its theatrical release. Obsession was originally meant to come to digital on June 2nd, but with the incredible way horror fans have shown up to the theater, those plans were put off. Because horror fans go to the movies. We out here. We spooky, and we kindly ask that you put horror movies in VIP because I have long legs and I want to recline my seat. Humans require contact nutrition and communal experiences. It's just not the same watching it at home by yourself. It's so much more satisfying to experience emotional catharsis alongside other people, whether that be through a horror movie, a concert, or an exorcism. Being able to see it in the theater, I think, also really changed my experience of the movie. This theater was completely sold out. Like, I'm talking the girl in the very front row was like a foot away from the screen and had to drink her fishbowl cocktail at an almost 90-degree angle in order to watch the movie. The audience was laughing a lot too whenever Nikki did something completely wild, and I wondered if I would have laughed so much if I was watching this movie at home, just me and my demonic bunny honeymoon. I suspect if I was at home, particularly when Nikki was creeping around at night and throwing her voice like a possessed ventriloquist dummy, I would have been way more scared, and I might have picked up my godforsaken phone to distract myself with videos of puppies. In director Curry Barker's interview with Time magazine, he said that with Obsession, he wanted to send a message about modern dating culture and the importance of putting yourself out there. He said, "We live in a world where everybody's on the internet and human connection feels like it's at an all-time low. Bear is a guy who's too scared. A lot of things would have been avoided in this movie if he had just told her how he felt." This happens towards the very beginning of the movie. I want to say the first 15 minutes or so. And I remember nearly jumping out of my seat in the theater when Bear was driving Nikki home, and this was the moment that he wanted to tell her his true feelings for her. I almost threw my popcorn at the screen. I almost wished I could pause the movie because this felt like such a big moment and what the entire movie was going to be about. Bear's insecurity, his discomfort with risking vulnerability, and wanting to take the lazy way out. I was like, just tell her. Just tell her you're interested in her romantically. Ask her out on a date. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen would be that she would just say no. We know that Nikki could sense that Bear likely had feelings for her because she asked him straight up. And she seemed to suggest that she was only interested in friendship with him, but at the same time, I wonder if her asking Bear if he had feelings for her was also an invitation to open up to her. Maybe she was interested in him too, and this was her way of sussing things out? Again, we can't know either way because you can't make a decision about how a mutual relationship is going to proceed without both people discussing their honest feelings and coming to a decision together, or else the entire thing is a fraud. So Bear is like, yeah, I'm too much of a ween, so I'm just going to wish on this patriarchy stick and possess her forever. That sounds way better. How is technology reshaping our ability to connect with other humans? This is what I'd like to call the fast foodification of intimacy, where we want everything, including our relationships, to be fast, effortless, and what is that McDonald's slogan? Exactly the way you love it? When we have come to expect things at the click of a button, to be able to order food directly to our houses whenever we want it, same-day delivery, swiping through people on screens, or the theatrical experience delivered immediately in a home environment. This is why I was so overjoyed that a sold-out theater of horror fans made the effort to show up to the theater. I swear, horror fans will save the world. Anyways, when we have started to expect everything in our lives to be seamless, easy, and specifically tailored to us as algorithmic systems have created, how does this impact our capacity for complicated, messy, vulnerable, authentic attachment with humans? How is this impacting our ability to tolerate the challenge of understanding a whole-ass other person with an entirely different lived experience than us, people with different worldviews, interests, and wants? What is this all doing to our ability to put in the work it takes to make a connection with another human being, to navigate the inevitable conflicts, misunderstandings, the pain and joy of living alongside each other? During the scene in Obsession, when Bear is in the car with Nikki and he can't just tell her how he actually feels about her, I sat there, avoiding the temptation to throw my popcorn at the screen, wondering what had happened to him in his life that made him so insecure, so worried about any potential rejection or navigating conflict. Whatever it was, that does not make it okay to body snatch someone and imprison them via a cursed wish stick. It just doesn't. Whatever made him this way, it made it so that Bear does not want to do the work to navigate an actual relationship with Nikki built on mutual consent, mutual desire, and mutual love. He wants the fast food version. Comfort and ease, to be perfectly honest, are ruining our ability to connect and be human. Have you seen WALL-E? I think about those chair people at least once a week. The fast foodification of society has made it so that we want everything to be comfortable and easy, including intimacy. To build a genuine connection with someone, whether that be a friendship, a romantic relationship, a workout buddy, a paranormal hunting partner, you have to put yourself out there in more ways than one. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. When intimacy is falsified, forced, or coerced, well, then the relationship is just a cursed trick made on a one-wish willow.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.
In Obsession, Bear takes absolute control of every aspect of Nikki. It's horrifying. She is trapped, and whenever her true self breaks through, the freaky Nikki persona, she screams in agony and begs for death. These are the most unsettling moments in the movie. Bear has trapped Nikki in a pattern of coercive control, which is of course the opposite of true intimacy. Coercive control is a pattern of abusive behaviors used to control or dominate a family member or intimate partner. Coercive control may involve a range of behaviors during a relationship or following a separation, including intimidation, making threats to harm the victim or themselves, which could include self-harm or suicide, minimizing and denying the abuse, also known as gaslighting, isolating the victim from friends, family, or work or school, emotional abuse such as constant criticism and degrading verbal abuse, financial abuse and control, stalking and monitoring, and those are just a few examples. And for our purposes and Nikki's, I would also like to add body snatching. Coercive control limits the victim's freedom and choices, which is precisely what happens to Nikki in Obsession. Bear's characterization is so great in this movie because he portrays the nice guy. He seems sweet, inoffensive, harmless. But what he teaches us about coercive control is that it doesn't necessarily have to be overt or loud. It can be quiet, subtle, and insidious. When Nikki breaks through and begs Bear to kill her, well into her imprisonment, he says, "What's so bad about being with me?" We understand in this moment that although Bear knows he has taken away all of Nikki's autonomy and she's in extreme pain, he still doesn't really care. He is more disturbed by Nikki's rejection of romantic interest than he is at his own violence towards her. This moment makes you lose any sympathy for Bear, if you had any to begin with. Indy Navarrete delivers an incredible performance as Nikki. She really makes you feel the desperation of coercive control and the pain of being left alone in the depths of suffering. At the root of Bear's coercive control of Nikki are subterranean sewer levels of self-esteem and the fear of intimacy. He can't just come out and tell her how he feels and have a mature conversation with her about their relationship, good, bad, or indifferent. He feels like he has to resort to trickery to get her to fall for him. I suspect a lot of these manosphere types aren't, in fact, super confident and self-assured. I suspect that the hostility and violence they espouse comes from a place of deep insecurity at not actually knowing how to have a genuine, authentic connection with someone, so they feel like they need to play all these sadistic games. When Bear calls the One Wish Willow hotline to cancel his wish, and we hear Nikki screaming in agony in the background, is it because she's actually being held at Manosphere HQ? There is a big difference between being into the idea of someone versus actually being into the reality of someone. In Obsession, Bear seems very much into the idea of being in a relationship with Nikki. She's pretty, she's cool, she's nice, he's known her for most of his life. They could just hang out and watch baseball and eat hot dogs or whatever it is that guys like to do. The reality of being in an actual relationship with Nikki is much too terrifying for Bear, so he resorts to wishing on a cursed stick. And the reality of then being in this twisted prisoner relationship scenario with Nikki is definitely too much for him to handle. True emotional intimacy is the desire and willingness to remain interested in another person after the initial surge of idealization has faded and you see what it's actually like to be together and who they are. Are you familiar with the manic pixie dream girl trope, popular in movies circa the Y2K-ish era? The term was coined in 2007 by AV Club film critic Nathan Rabin, who, by the way, despises this trope. It refers to a bubbly, quirky, somewhat shallow female protagonist who exists solely to help the lonely male protagonist find happiness without having any personal goals or needs of her own. Rabin was actually referring to Kirsten Dunst's character in Elizabethtown when he coined the term, but other popular examples include Sam, played by Natalie Portman in Garden State, Summer, played by Zooey Deschanel in 500 Days of Summer, and Clementine, played by the formidable Kate Winslet, how dare they, in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If Nikki is Bear's manic pixie dream girl, that dream quickly devolves into a nightmare when Nikki turns into what they call Freaky Nikki. It's not just Bear who notices how out of character she is acting. Their friends and colleagues at the music store notice that she seems quite unwell, and in particular, when she is lying about her father dying from cancer. This is another point of fast foodification in Obsession. It's the fast foodification of relational intimacy, but I'll do you one deeper. It's the fast foodification of mental health. Okay, so these are Nikki's friends. They have all known her for a very long time. They went to school together. They work together. They know her and presumably care about her. But suddenly, when she starts acting extremely erratic, out of character, she is presenting as a danger to herself. Like, hello, she is literally reciting weird poetry and smashing things into her face at parties. Suddenly, it's like, whoa, she's crazy, but that's not my problem. I have to protect my peace. I am setting my boundary. When Bear reaches out to Sarah for support or flirtation or whatever it is that he's doing at this point, Sarah says to him about Nikki's increasingly erratic behavior, "She's not your responsibility." This was another point in the movie when I wanted to throw my popcorn at the screen because, first of all, this is quite literally his responsibility because he made all of this happen. But secondly, I feel like I'm hearing this a lot now. That's not my responsibility. She's not my responsibility. My parents aren't my responsibility. My friends aren't my responsibility. Okay, then, who are we actually responsible to then? If we're not responsible for taking care of each other, then who is? In the fast foodification of mental health, we say that we want to talk about mental health, but do we really? Or has it just become another product? We make cutesy t-shirts that say things like, "My anxiety has anxiety," and talk about boundaries and being an eldest daughter or whatever. But when we say we are a safe space to talk about mental health, can we talk about the really tough stuff? The kind of stuff you wouldn't put on a t-shirt? Nikki's friends all but distance themselves and abandon her when her behavior becomes really uncharacteristic and scary. None of her friends pull her aside and say, "Hey girl, what's going on? You don't seem like yourself. You're making cats into sandwiches and I'm worried about you." True intimacy means leaning into the tough stuff to take care of someone you care about. Nikki is experiencing some of the aspects of mental health that we aren't so comfortable talking about. Delusions, psychosis, self-harm, suicidality, harm to others. She is not only a victim of Bear's manic pixie dream fantasies, but of an individualistic society where people get abandoned when they are really struggling. A tarot card that I associate with obsession is the Two of Swords. Bear knows that he wants to be closer to Nikki and have a deeper relationship with her, but he is simultaneously too afraid of his own vulnerability and rejection, so he is making decisions that are not actually in his best interest or anybody's interest for that matter. There is an element of emotional avoidance despite knowing better. There's a big ocean behind him and a lovely moon, begging the question, what is he so afraid to fully feel when he takes off the mask of illusion? You can also imagine that when someone is blindfolding themselves and then handling something as dangerous as swords, that something terrible is bound to happen. You can certainly hurt yourself, and you can most certainly hurt other people. By not taking responsibility for his own fear of intimacy and vulnerability, Bear is actually weaponizing it, creating a volatile nightmare scenario for everyone who comes into contact with this situation he has created and is indeed responsible for.
An iHeartRadio epic rock adventure. With Limp Bizkit. Live at Festival d'été de Québec in Quebec City. Presented by Bell in collaboration with Coors Light. You could win VIP tickets for two for July 9th with flights, hotel, and $1,000 cash. Download iHeartRadio and listen to iHeart Heavy Rock for 10 minutes and enter to win Limp Bizkit live. Every day you listen is another chance to win.
This movie is called Obsession to describe the way in which Nikki becomes dangerously obsessed with Bear, and how this type of smothering is a horrifying way to be loved by someone. But it's not really Nikki who's obsessed with Bear. Nikki was just minding her own business. Bear is the one who is obsessed with the idea of possessing an idealized version of Nikki, a manic pixie dream girl who could somehow fill the empty, lonely space inside of him that he wasn't sure how to fill. The obsession in this movie is about codependency, needing to control every aspect of how someone feels, what they do, because his entire self-worth and identity is tied to the absolute domination of that other person. Bear has forced a dangerous, codependent, coercive dynamic into his relationship with Nikki, where she has been forced to assume the role of giver, abandoning any of her own needs or sense of self to be in service to Bear, the taker. Perhaps what is also being described in Obsession is the smothering feeling of getting everything you think you wanted and getting it so easy. Subservience, sycophancy, someone who caters to your every whim desire, and the empty horror present in this fast food reality. That, my ghouls, is the story of Obsession and its portrayal of the fear of intimacy. What they really should have called this movie is Possession, about the horror of how we want to possess everything completely and automatically and without friction. But that title was already taken by a super trippy 1981 German horror movie that you should also check out. Mental Health is Horrifying is researched, written, and edited by me, Candis Green, a registered and spooky psychotherapist, and proudly produced in partnership with iHeartRadio Canada. If you like this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing on your preferred listening platform. It really helps the show to reach all the other spooky ghouls out there, and I will be eternally grateful. And an eternity is a very long time for a vampire, okay? If you're a mental health professional who wants to learn how to ethically incorporate tarot into your clinical work with confidence, join Tarot for Creative Therapists. You can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health is Horrifying, and you can also learn more about me and my services through my website, manymoonstherapy.com. Or you can also howl at the moon, and I will hear your call. Bright blessings.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio, hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
We're coming to get you.
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.